Hi guys, I know it's been such a long time since we have uploaded to this channel and we are so sorry, but Chris and I have been so busy. We are hoping to get back to it soon, but until then we wanted to tell you guys about our brand new podcast channel, Nail on Sunday, where we talk all things nail industry related. We have stitched together best bits from the last 5 episodes for you to watch and see if you like it.
It's probably just cheap crap. It might actually be a really good product. It might be a really good product.
Yeah, I think you also probably, that's actually a really good point. You probably devalue your product as a brand by letting everybody have it. If you look at a brand such as Biosculpture, they are very, when I think of Biosculpture, I think of a prestigious brand.
Yeah.
I think of
Class.
quality, class.
Demure.
And this is coming from someone who's never used Biosculpture. I have never used it, but from what I know and what I see in the outside and from speaking to nail techs who do use it, this is what I see. And the reason for that is that not only are they professional only, but you actually have to be trained with them to buy. So it's almost like an exclusive club. And we are very much inclusivity over exclusivity. So
Yeah, the brand is. You and I are not. We like going to those exclusive clubs. We like to sit in the first class lounge.
with our free seats that we got using our American Express points, as previously discussed. So yeah, if you then open it up to everybody, you're probably right. You're probably like, oh, okay, it's not very special if everybody can use it, whether they're a nail technician or not.
Right, okay.
That's a good way to think about it. Okay, but this is why I like just coming on to the podcast and like we know we've got a topic to talk about and then just letting the conversation go because you just talk things out and work things out that you wouldn't have before.
The thing is, I have very, very strong thoughts and opinions, and they usually get shut down. So, for me, it's a great place to air some of them. Also, I just want to just let you guys know what's going on today. Lucky bees.
All right, you had hot chicken. You've got to tell everybody about it.
Man.
Okay.
We had some Nashville hot chicken before we came on the pod.
It's made you sleepy.
Do you know what? It's made me sleep. I feel like my energy levels have went down. Normally, I'm full of beans. Let's go. Pod.
It's made me really sleepy as well. But mine, I did have chicken and waffles. So I had waffle. It was like carb and chicken.
Yeah. I just raw dogged it with some ultra spicy bits of chicken and a tiny bit of bread and blue cheese sauce. Oh, wow.
So off topic.
Yeah.
So
Biosculpture to blue cheese.
So yeah, it's a tough one. Is it, like we said at the beginning of the episode, is it illegal to sell products to non-professionals that don't have HEMA and diHEMA? No, it's not. You can absolutely, you're well within your rights to do so. Is it right though? Is it morally correct? Our opinion, and remember, everybody's morals are very, very individual. Our opinion is that it is not because we don't think it is safe. And again, there are so many people out there that think it's just nails. It's not when you're dealing with acrylates and things that cross over into the medical world and the dental world. That's what people really have to remember. I'll tell people a really interesting fact that they probably don't realise is that most manufacturers of, certainly when we're talking about countries such as the UK, EU and America, most companies who manufacture gel products started by manufacturing dental products. And usually continue to do both, have a dental stream and a cosmetic stream. So most of them are both.
Just to put in context, if you go get a filling and you've got some builder gel on your nails, it could be from the same company. You just don't know.
Literally, it could be. A lot of people probably don't realise that. And the reason that they offer both is because they're using the same chemicals. And you also have to remember that there is an orthopedic element to dental work. It's bone, so that crosses over as well. In fact, I got one of my fillings was starting to fail, and I went and got it redone a few weeks ago. And she said to me, "Oh, you might feel it going a bit hot."
Spicy gel.
It's polarizing. I said, and when she came out, I was like, "It's so weird that you can feel that polarization." And she was almost like, "How do you know?" I was like, "Oh, we do nail gel." She said, "It's just exactly the same."
I'm glad she said that, and she said, "Oh, you just do nails."
No, she's like, "Yeah, it's just exactly the same." So we're talking about that polarization that I could physically feel in my tooth. So that was unusual, but I think that's a really important fact for people that maybe people don't actually know. Might be a little TikTok that I should put up about that.
Ideas on the fly.
That's it. But yeah, they cross over. They use the same ingredients. They use the same photo initiators and things like that. So you should be charging for nail art and you should be charging for removals. Nail art is going to take you a lot more time, and your time is worth money. Work out how much money you want to earn per hour and divvy that up and add that on for your nail art charge. Obviously, there is a small amount of product that you need to use for nail art, so you need to incorporate that as well. But make sure you are charging for your nail art and you're charging appropriately. The next thing is removals. Do not, please, give removals away for free, because removals, even when you're charging for them, are making you no money. Even when you're charging for them, you're simply maybe breaking even. I think we used to charge £8 or £10 for a removal of full cover tips.
I remember when we first started, it was a £5.
A £5, and it doesn't cover the acetone. It barely covers the acetone.
Unless you buy it from nail art, that's quite cheap.
But if you think like a removal of full cover tips, say that's taking you half an hour,
it's time.
Plus the files that you're using, plus the acetone that you're removing, it costs. A removal is one of the more expensive things that you can actually do. So you must be charging for it, absolutely. And if you're not charging for it separately, you're gonna have to bundle it into the price of your treatment. Let's
just break that down. Say, for instance, you want to earn a minimum of £10 an hour. I know that sounds stupid, but I'm using simple
numbers. Just because
numbers.
it's a round number, right? I get that.
£10 per hour. Mm-hmm. It takes you half an hour to do a removal. Mm-hmm. So that's £5. So that should be the minimum baseline you're using.
Yeah, and that's not even to touch on anything else.
Take into consideration your acetone, your nail files. It's freezing cold outside, so you want to incorporate a little bit of heat into that as well. Some light.
Maybe you're using an e-file, so you're using other electricity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You've got your Spotify on, so you're
you're probably cleaning down the desk between times, so you're cleaning materials. Yeah. Maybe you've got a mani mat on the desks, which you're changing between. You've got all of those costs involved. Gloves,
all those things. So let's just put it into context. It costs you, say, £12.50. No, it doesn't. I can't do math, sorry. It costs you £6.50. Your time plus £1.50 of your incidentals and everything else.
It definitely costs more than £1.50 in acetone if you're putting it in bowls.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Not nail art or cheap acetone.
Everything else, I think you're talking about like £8 in total, probably.
Okay. Imagine you're only charging £2 for that.
Or imagine giving it away for free.
Oh, God. Why are you giving it away?
No. Hopefully. And that's only if you want to earn £10 an hour. Most nail techs are wanting to walk away with at least £20 an hour, £25 an hour. So it's really, really important that you're charging for removals, guys. It is a completely separate service and it should be charged for. Okay, so we had a really bad experience with accountants, which is why
Rebecca did accountancy at university.
Yes,
so when we started our first business, Piranapedi, and it was going wild and the money was flying through the doors.
It felt like it was flying through the doors.
Rebecca was like, oh my God, we need an accountant.
So we tell them how much we were turning over at that point. Yeah. So with our very first business, which was the fish pedicures, we had no staff. It was just Chris and I, and we were renting space from a salon. It was a big salon. They weren't using our space, so we rented a little corner. They charged us what is in hindsight a ridiculously high rent of £250 a week.
But it was like prime location.
It was prime location. That was all included. But it was also like what, 2009, 2010?
2011.
2011, right? So really ridiculous for them when I look back. But it all seemed really simple. So no staff. That was the only fixed cost. We had to buy the tanks. The fish were really expensive at the time. But anyway, we were turning over £15,000 a month, weren't we?
That was ridiculous.
And we were like, what? And when we went to this we were like, we need an accountant. And then we went to this accountancy firm, a respectable partnership, and they didn't believe us when we said how much we were turning over. They were like, that's just not possible. We were like, we are. And then we showed them and they're like, oh my God. Anyway, long story short, they were charging us £360 per month to do all of our accounts, which is absolute extortion.
Now, bear in mind, if you are a big salon and you're turning over 15 grand a month, I can start to see why, because you have lots of operating costs. But bear in mind, it was just Rebecca and I.
Even then, but then we never had an accountant after we got rid of them, because long story short, so we charged us £360 a month. We didn't have any staff at the time, but then we did get staff. So included in that was payroll, absolutely everything. So what's £360 a month times 12? My God, I don't know, it's around £5 grand.
5
right? The accountant that we have, the accountant firm, a really good firm we have now, don't charge us much more than that.
Now, bear in mind the size of the business.
Size of the business, yeah. So nail order is much, much, much bigger than that was. But we do our own payroll now, which we've always done, because it's easy and it is cheap, and I don't know why you wouldn't do your own payroll. So as a individual,
Small salon.
do you need no? And that's another thing. If you just have a business account and then a business credit card, and everything business is coming just in and out of those two things, with the software that you can get, the accountancy software, you can just integrate the whole lot, and it can just all speak to each other and essentially do everything for you.
Yeah, you don't need to don't overcomplicate it. Don't get it twisted.
And even if you have staff, even if you do have an accountant, but you have staff, take away payroll from them, because they are going to charge you a lot more to do it per month than the monthly fee. So I think most packages are about £10 or £9 a month for your payroll, right?
Yeah.
Accountant charges you way more than that, and it is so easy. Everything talks directly to HMRC, no matter what system, whether you're using Xero, QuickBooks, Sage, it all sends it all off to HMRC for you.
And one thing you have to take into consideration with an accountant, they want all that information. They want to know how many people you have, what their staff is, how many hours they've worked.
So bear in mind, for me to do the payroll, what I need to do is I need to sit and add up the rota, right? Everybody's hours. I need to enter the hours. I need to enter any holiday hours, and I press next. And then I need to make the payments.
But if you had to
if I had for an accountant, I still need to do the rota part and send them that. So the only difference is that I wouldn't be entering 125 into a box.
Yeah.
It's an absolute no-brainer. And honestly, it's so simple.
And if you're stuck, YouTube is your best friend.
Yeah, but honestly, it's really, really simple. QuickBooks particularly, that's who we have now. They walk us, if we ever have a problem with anything or a question, there's live chats and they walk you through anything. So whenever somebody's like, oh yeah, I'll get the accountant to make they do the payroll. And then, in fact, somebody recently told me about a mistake that the accountant made with their payroll, and the staff got overpaid. All of the staff got overpaid, and then they had to try and claim the money back, and it was a whole entire thing. So, yeah.
It's nuts.
I'm not saying that I couldn't make that mistake. I could, but I would be less inclined to do so.
It's also your own fault. You take responsibility for it. But the thing is, the accountant, are they going to be backtracking and trying to get that money?
Especially with holidays and stuff. And if the accountant's a complete third party, they're not aware that Tammy went on holiday for 2 weeks during the month, but you remember that.
Yeah.
So especially if you're a smaller business, you've got one staff member, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, we've got on our payroll, I think there's 19 people. This is the first month I am handing it over to the bookkeeper to do.
Oh, so we have a bookkeeper now. How fancy are you?
She's employed by the business, though. It's kind of different. But yes, she will be doing it from now on. Well, obviously, that's how our year started, isn't it?
And that segues me straight into how did our year start? 2024.
God, yeah, it's 2024, isn't it? Coming to an end.
It feels like such a long time.
Funnily enough, I got an email from the venue that we had our event in saying, would you like an event next year? I mean, it was a really great venue, but the event was fantastic. So we started our year, 7th of January, 2024.
Well, we actually started on January 1st, the same as everybody else, but in real terms.
The first milestone of our year was the event, which was so good. And our brand has grown so much since then, and I can't imagine how many people would come to another one. And it's one of those ones, isn't it, where people want to see proof of concept with an event. They want to see they like to see last year's video or the last event's video and things like that. So yeah, I think this next one would be amazingly more amazing.
So
it was so amazing anyway. It can't be any more amazing, but I mean there would be so much more people.
Well, what I'll try and do is I'll get some footage and throw it up on the screen so people can see some of the shenanigans that was going on.
It was so good.
But just give people an oversight. When did you start planning this? A couple of weeks before?
August 2023.
Jesus Christ. So it took you 6 months to plan this?
Yes.
And at what point in time did you want to kill yourself?
Very quickly. And it would be after we announced it and I realised there was no going back. I was like, why have I done this? Genuinely, I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever done to myself. Why have we done this? This is awful. It was just so stressful. It was more actually trying to sell the tickets and corral people to come to the event. Everybody who came to the event was blown away about how amazing it is. And I don't think we're blowing our own trumpet by saying this, but it's hands down the best industry event that I've ever been to. Only because we've been to industry events and whilst we liked some elements of, these other events, there was things where we're like, oh, and that didn't work for us personally. So as an example, I knew when we did our event, I didn't want to force anybody to be anywhere at one particular time. I wasn't going to corral everybody into one room, have to sit and be talked at for a period of time and like continue the day like that, because not everybody does well with that, especially if you're a neurospicy, like most of us here at Nail Order, being sat and being talked at for a period of time, even if it's just as little as 20 minutes, that's a lot for us. So if it's something that we really want to listen to, then obviously that's by choice. But when it's sort of forced on you, don't do well with that. So we had obviously lots of different speakers. We had Shan come and do a talk. We had Anushka Anastasia there who did a workshop and was interviewed. We had Maddie Cook do a talk. We had Lottie Seymour, all sorts. It was fantastic. We did a talk about education. No, it wasn't talk about education. It was a talk about different career paths within the nail industry. So a little bit of that was education, content creation, session work, etc., etc. So that was in one room. And then whilst all that was going on, we had our Sunday market. Yeah.
Good one.
Sunday market where there was...
Do you see a pattern here with nail order on Sundays? It's just a thing.
Well, it all came off. We did Sunday service was a thing we used to do on a Sunday where we would do shout out to a nail tech on Instagram. Yeah. And then we were like, well, hang on. And it played into like the churchy thing that Nail Order is like got going on. And it was held in a church, an old church. Yeah. And it was on a Sunday. So it all just worked together. So yeah, we had the Sunday market, which was stalls or nail related stuff, but maybe stuff brands you wouldn't usually see at like a trade show. So that was really cool. And then we had an area where you could like network, eat, drink, and then we had workshops going on upstairs as well. So that was during the day. So it was something
and like the showroom, stockroom.
Oh yeah, we had the nail order room, which was so cool. There was like photo opportunities. There was all of our products you could buy. You could get free embroidery on merch. We had the palm reader. We had the candy floss stall. As I said, we had the workshops upstairs, various different workshops that people could do, nail art, business, etc. So yeah, there was something for everybody during the day, and it was just an excellent day. And people were commenting about how friendly everybody was and how diverse and inclusive it was, which was really important to us. So that was a daytime, and then we had the nighttime, which was at Tonight Josephine in Birmingham, and that was unreal. It was pretty much almost ended up being an open bar because we had that many drinks tokens. And we got sponsored by Tequila Rose, so there was unlimited shots of Tequila Rose.
Photo booth. Magician.
The magician was so good. It wasn't just like a standard magician. This was like a cool dynamo style magician.
Yeah, if you did stuff your iPhone and stuff, it was unreal.
It was really cool. And then of course we had Black Pepper from RuPaul's Drag Race, and food. So yeah,
people
it was
dancing
just
with food.
Excellent, wasn't it?
One thing I would say is, just say for talking sake, Rebecca said that we wanted to do this and we not launched it on, say, August 28th. That's when Rebecca put it into the world. That's what we're going to launch. That's what we're going to do. By September 1st, I had already had enough of this because really all of a sudden consumed people's lives to the point where they couldn't do their own job, which again would just piss me off because I'd really just want people to do the basics and get them right, and then they can do these types of things. I actually had to basically hire people to be able to sort this event.
I was like, if we're doing this... Like, the idea of an event had been floated around, and I can remember saying to Laura, I was really not very nice in my tone, totally not on purpose, but I was like, Laura, I'm thinking much bigger than you are here. Laura was like, an event, a smallish event, blah, blah, blah. Bear in mind, we'd never done we'd done like a little thing here when we opened our trade shop, but not really an event before. But if we were doing it, I wanted it to be perfect. Every single aspect was so... like incredibly thought of, the details, like even like the goodie bags, like the bag, the actual goodie bag itself, what was in it, the magazine. We had a zine, remember? That was amazing.
Was there any complaints about the day?
That I heard.
Because it doesnn't make a difference how much thought you put into it, how much money you put into it.
I'll tell you the complaints we got. In fact, there's only one, I think. You might need to tell me if there's any more.
Quite a lot of people said there was not enough food.
No, not a lot of people. One person. One person complained to somebody who was working there that wasn't enough food. Can I tell you right now, guys, so much food got binned. So there was no way. And also, we didn't say, it's an all-inclusive day. We were feeding and watering everybody pretty much all. There was enough food to support you for the day, but lots and lots of food got binned. We had breakfast food, like morning food. And then after all that got cleared away, the amount of that got binned, like the fruit platter, the pastries, so much got binned. And then there was lunchtime food. Again, loads of that got binned.
I mean, I'd say the only people actually complaining about anything was really the staff. They were like, they're starving and they were just working like proper straight through crew. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, can we go grab something to eat? And I'm like, guys, there's nothing left.
But I think that was the only complaint.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was nothing left because they clear it away and then it was gone. And then obviously we had loads of food, which so much got binned at night time.
One thing I would say, you touched on right at the very start, there's so much to do.
Mm-hmm.
I would say in the generation we're in just now, where we're all consuming and everything's quick and easy, like I know I can't sit through a movie just now.
We need to be entertained on multiple levels.
Yeah. And I think that gave it. And I think that's one of the differences maybe from a lot of other events. Whereas if you like, I can't consume a movie now.
No.
I can only consume 50 minutes of YouTube at one time and it's got to move on to something else, you know? And I think a lot of people are like that. So I can't sit and be talked, like you said, talked at, because that's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like you're part of it if you're just being spoken at for like an hour and a half, stuff like that. That's not for me. So I think for that aspect of it, a lot of people really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So is there one thing or a couple of things what would you change about it?
Well, actually, you've actually just reminded me. It wasn't a complaint, but it was just a suggestion. Was that people that did workshops felt that they missed out on a lot of the other day
because they were somewhere else.
Because we were wanting everything to be going on all at the same time. So I think next time what we'll do, we've already started talking about what we would do, but next time we will have maybe the workshops on at a specific time that doesn't overlap with, say, any other talks, but there'll still be like networking and shopping opportunities on at that time. So you're not missing out on anything too much. Maybe like condense the workshops down a little bit so they don't consume so much time. Yeah.
I think it's a lot to try and jam into one day and to be able to like set up and break down.
Oh my God, the exhaustion, guys can't even imagine like the stress of setting that up.
I mean, like staff were on the go from 6 a.m. Laura woke up at like 4 to do her makeup, which is wild.
And she was really sick as well. She was so nervous.
Yeah.
But yeah, the staff woke up like 6 a.m. And then, well, Chris and I were the last people out there. We went
checked out
almost 24 hours.
Yeah.
I can't believe we made it all the way.
And then we like woke up super early next morning, had breakfast,
drive back up the road,
and drove home with a van full of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then we went on holiday the next day.
Oh my God.
Yep. It's wild. And the thing is, we went on holiday. We went straight to our friends in Ohio. And it was no chill because they've got 4 young kids, so it's just on the go. They were all still off on vacation.
We decided to get a puppy.
Well, that segues into the next thing. So the event, are you going to do another one?
Yes, we will. Now, here's the thing. I really want to do something completely different and even bigger, but I feel like what I've got in my mind is probably like a year of planning. Maybe not a year, but a long time. So the next event we will do, we'll probably do something pretty much the same as what we did, with different speakers and different workshops and stuff like that, but the same setup is what I mean.
What about September weekend?
Yeah, well, we were looking at September, October, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Stay tuned, and if you'd like us to do another event, give us suggestions. Put the comments below in the YouTube video, or head over to Chris and Becca TikTok and hit us up on there.
We should really post something on there because it's been quite a while. We've just been
did
too busy.
something today. Is there any training course or any part of learning throughout your life that you've enjoyed?
No.
Okay, excellent. This is how good we are going to be at this podcast.
And I thought we were getting onto something. No, I hate being taught.
Yes.
I prefer to learn myself.
You do.
I can't stand it, quite honestly. It fills me with this awful feeling on the inside.
I am very similar. I am far too cocky for my own good. Mm-hmm. Anytime I go on a training course, I'm the guy who is like asking questions like, why is this?
Yeah.
Just to put in the context, something has just popped into my brain. Right, so I'm going to talk about something I want to do this year. I want to get signed off this year. But a few years back, I think it must have been 2017, 2018, where we used to have our beauty salon and our clothing store next to it, in between was a bar called Gantry. Mm-hmm. And I heard that it might be good up for sale. And I thought to myself, damn man, I want a bar. So I went on a personal license training course.
Yes, you did. I forgot about that.
Personal license training course.
Why did you do that?
Because to be like an owner of a bar, I guess you don't need a personal license, but I thought if I have a personal license, it just makes obtaining a license to be able to sell alcohol is much easier. I was going to start a new bar. I can't tell you the name of it because it's a great business idea that Rebecca and I've got. Probably do that in our.
Do you know what? I think we'll do that when we move to the Caribbean.
Florida.
We'll move to the Caribbean to some like quiet little island, and we'll just live a really low-key, quiet life, and we'll just run a beach bar.
Yep, sounds good.
Sounds
good.
perfect.
That sounds good. So I went on this training course, and about halfway through it, I was, I'll say, arguing with the lady about why we can't do drinks promotions. And I said to her, but you must understand that if you don't do drinks promotions, like, this is why all the bars are closing. She was like, yes, I agree with you, but you're not allowed to. And I'm like, but why? But she couldn't give me a straight answer.
Well, it's just the government says no.
Now the government says no because of the new tax, not tax, it's essentially a tax on it, minimum pricing and stuff like that. But if you think about it, if you go to if you go on holiday, you get a bucket of beers for, I don't know, 10 beers for like $25.
10 beers for 10 buckaroos? Is that what you're going to say?
Could be. That's a really happy hour.
I had a flashback to a training. I've got a few flashbacks. We'll talk about some more of them later. But to a training course that I did. I was talking to Laura about this just the other day. And I was like, oh my God, I've just remembered. So one of the reasons I hate going on training, well, there's two. Number one, I always think I know best. I know, just like Chris, too cocky, think you know best, whatever. We both have eternally inquisitive minds, so we like to ask questions. And before we do anything, before we go on any course, we will have already done a huge amount of research.
Yes. Both on the course and the subject matter.
Yeah, exactly. So that does it, that can create its own problems. But the other reason is I'm incredibly impatient. Now, often when you go onto beauty courses, you end up having to be a model. So I remember when I went on the HD Brow course, oh my God, I was such an asshole. So when I went on the HD Brow course, this must have been about
2013.
It was about 13 years ago. But I think it might have been 2012.
Okay.
2012, 2013. Long time ago. It was just when HD Brows were coming up. The course was £1,000.
I remember like us scrimping, saving to pay for that.
We scrimped and saved and probably sold a car to pay for that.
Yeah.
And that is outrageous. I'm sorry, but that was an outrageous price. A more appropriate price for the course would have been about £300, £250, but they could charge it at the time, so they did. And don't get me wrong, it was worthwhile for our business because I ended up just doing eyebrows all day, every day, which got me amazing eyebrows, which led into microblading, led into the rest of my career. But on the course, we had to be each other's models. And the girl, I was sat there for, I think, about an hour and 15 minutes. And this girl was...
while she was doing the treatment on you?
Yes. And she was a police officer, strangely. Yeah. Do you remember this? So it's all coming back to me now. And I'd been sat there for an hour and 15 minutes and I'd been holding it in. I can't stand getting anything done. Just as a snippet into my life, I went to get my hair cut last week or the week before. And I was in there for 12 minutes. That is all I can handle. I timed it because I was like, I'm interested to know. 12 minutes. I book in for a dry cut. I wash my hair, dry it before I go. And all they do is trim it and thin it out. I cannot stand having anything done to me. I don't like being touched. I'm a bit of a weirdo, right? Anyway, I've been holding it in for a really long time. I think I'd been holding it in since at least about half an hour. And I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was like, I'm really sorry. I can't sit here anymore. I just can't sit here anymore. And she was like, but it's my training. And I was like, but this is taking too long. This is just taking too long. So yeah, this is another reason I don't like going on training courses, especially in the beauty industry.
So we are the perfect people to be talking about education today. But what I think with us, we'll give you an honest answer, whereas a lot of people will just BS you right along.
We don't like to sugarcoat things. We like to give you our very honest opinions. I always say, don't ask, this is about me, but it's kind of relevant to Chris as well. Don't ask me a question you don't want an honest answer to.
All right. Now, as we're all scientists, especially in LTECs, we can look at oncolysis and think to ourselves, that's a reaction.
No.
How do you and should you diagnose clients' reactions or suspected reactions?
My biggest pet peeve in the whole entire world is certain forums on Facebook where people jump to the conclusion. And let me just jump in and say this, right? I'm really proud of our group on Facebook because all of the nail techs on there, whenever somebody posts something about allergies, they've got a client who's had a reaction to another brand, they've got a client who's maybe had a suspected reaction to one of our products, whatever it is, they don't jump on and go, oh, that's a reaction, and speak as though they know exactly what they're talking about. They don't do it. And I am so proud of you, every single person in our group who sees these posts, comments, and doesn't scaremonger and gives good advice, because you always do. In stark contrast, there are forums and things out there, especially on Facebook, like I said, where somebody posts a picture of an allergy and immediately people jump on and they go, oh, poor quality products, made in China, have caused this problem. Person hasn't even put up what brand they've used. That's definitely an allergy. How in God's name do you know that when I can show that picture to doctors, literally done this before, and they can't say that that's an allergy? You don't know. You have no bloody idea.
Again, science, black and white.
Yeah, so common misconception that nail techs can diagnose problems, number one, and number two, that onycholysis means that the person is having a reaction. Actually, when you break down the numbers and look at the percentage of people that have allergies to acrylates, again, off the top of my head, I think it was about 1% of people have an allergy to acrylates. The likelihood is far more weighted in favour of something else having happened than the fact that that person has an allergy to an acrylate. Whether that is a trauma, whether the nail has been overfiled and the exothermic reaction's been a little bit too much for their nail plate, etc., a million other things. Whether they've had a full cover tip on and it's been pinching slightly and that's caused onycholysis rather than the fact that they've had a reaction. So do not jump to the conclusion that because you see a small amount of onycholysis, especially when it is combined with no other typical presentations of a reaction, that it is a reaction. Don't get me wrong, there's a chance that it could be the start of a reaction, but the likelihood is, the odds are in favour of that actually it's not.
But more people are more likely to favour the odds of winning a lottery than to think
But
it's
not.
gonna be,
This is very, very true. But yeah, I think don't scare yourself by putting up these pictures and asking the question. We've talked about that before, is this an allergy or whatever? Because especially if you don't know where you're putting it up, if you're putting it up in these random forums that are quite toxic for that,
stick with a good circle that's going to help you rather than scare you.
And again, nail order tips and advice group on Facebook. I'm very proud of you guys.
Okay, well, I'll link that as well. God, I'm linking everything.
There's so many links.
The problem is, I'm gonna have to like sit and watch this. Well, obviously, I'm going to edit it and write them all actually down.
So a common misconception, which is in the same area, and we should have probably put it in the previous one, is that if you have a client with an allergy to henna, you can use a henna-free base.
That's the one I was going on to next. They were all linking together.
Sorry.
Right, let me introduce it and you can talk all about it.
Okay.
Right, because we've had this recently, and I've heard Laura. Laura sits beside me in the office, and Laura's like, "Oh, bloody again." So, I think a lot of people ask, but moreover, they're actually telling that this is possible, and they just want the brand's backup.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
It's a case of I can use a henna-free or hypoallergenic air quotes product as a base, and then use my gel polish that's filled with henna on top of it, and it'll be fine.
It is not creating a protective barrier. Now, don't get me wrong. I can understand
the science.
Not the science, the reasoning. I can understand the reasoning behind this, right? I totally get it. But let me ask this question. An analogy I have used in a previous episode. If you have a peanut allergy,
Penal allergy?
A penal, no, peanut.
Wow. Penal, sorry.
If you have a peanut allergy, would it be safe to swallow whole a chocolate-covered peanut?
It's a very good one.
No, it absolutely wouldn't.
Very good one.
The chocolate isn't protecting you from the peanut inside.
Or the penal.
Or the penal. No, this is absolutely not safe for a number of reasons. So let's start with the most obvious one. So we've got our protective base layer on, which is this henna-free product, and we're putting the henna-filled gel on top. When somebody has exposure to those uncured monomers, etc., it's not necessarily being absorbed through the nail, right? Because the nail isn't particularly porous until you get to certain layers. So if the nail's been overfiled, then yes, right? But whenever you cure gel products, there is a certain percentage or an acceptable percentage of uncured product. There is a byproduct that is left over. You know, when we talk about our inhibition layer, that is uncured monomer that has not polymerized because of the oxygen inhibition not being able to finish that chain, right? So there is always a certain level of uncured monomers. Now, this could be more if your lamp hasn't fully cured your product. For whatever reason, it's been applied too thick, the lamp isn't good enough quality, etc. those monomers can be easily released, especially, you know, when into our skin, the surrounding skin on our fingers, especially when we're washing our hands, etc., etc. So
maybe not right at the time of the nail treatment. It could be like later on that day.
It could be later on.
A couple of days.
Exactly. So those uncured monomers are still then able to go into the surrounding skin. Now, how many of those monomer particles is going to be dependent on how much of the product has cured. So no, it's absolutely not safe, and it is absolutely not creating a barrier. The exact same way that applying a thin base layer of your gel, let's say we're talking about build gel, is not protecting your client from applying a super thick structure layer that isn't fully cured. Yeah, it's not protected. The next part of that is that there is a likelihood that if you're using a HEMA-free base and a HEMA-free product with a HEMA-filled gel on top, are you mixing brands? Now, don't get me wrong, there are brands out there that have a combination, so that's completely different. But if we're talking about mixing brands, that can be unsafe as well. So, yeah.
So I hope you like that, guys. If you do, make sure you go and subscribe to Nail on Sunday to be notified when we release our next episode. You can also listen anywhere that you listen to podcasts.